Hello and welcome back to Who Cares podcast, the spin-off Mind Matters.
Mind Matters.
I'm here with.
Sorry, I have to put it in every time, mate.
You just get those. I'm used to that as well because whenever I walk, people do that anyway.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, that's because you're leaving, mate. You're like,
Boo. Yeah, that's I'll get that one back. That's fine. So a really important episode today. So we're talking about suicide/suicide prevention. So the episode's going to tackle the difficult but crucial topic of suicide, focusing on prevention, awareness, how to support someone who might be struggling. We're going to try to provide practical advice on recognising warning signs and starting conversations. So let's start off. Why is suicide such a taboo topic? How does that stance make it difficult for people who might be toying with suicidal thoughts? I think in the last episode you mentioned that mental health is always a temporary problem. It's kind of always in a state of flux. Sometimes it's really bad, sometimes it's really good. I think that's like for me, the thing about suicide is it's always a permanent solution to a temporary problem. It is a absolutely...
Doesn't feel like that at the time, does it?
It never does. I've been there. And for me, mine one was... I've been there a few times, but I want to talk about a recent one. So it was like September 23, and I was in Mallorca on holiday. Personal situation was going bad. Sideways. Work was going bad. I knew something was happening as well, so people were having conversations. Like, I'd have like senior meetings, but I wasn't including them. Like, I know something's going on.
You get that feeling, don't you?
Yeah, and I knew it. And then you kind of got the thing about how am I going to pay the bills, how am I going to look after the kids. And we walk in, it's in Mallorca, Palma, so there's a really nice beach, and I seen this really kind of rocky outcrop, and I thought that's just perfect. I got as far as like sitting down, put my phone to the side of me, and the screen flashed up when I put it down with like an on the lock screen. We all have people we love on the lock screen. It was the kids looking back at me.
Or a push bike.
What's that?
Or a push bike. You know, you've got these mountain bikers, they've got their push bikes on there. It could be anything.
It was the kid's face looking back at me that pulled me out of that. It wasn't anything. I didn't want to talk to anyone. So it's a really tough kind of place to be.
And I think we all have stories similar to that, don't we? So, I don't know, about 2001, something like that. I ended up in Hastings on my own, 3 o'clock in the morning. Didn't want to be here anymore. Just didn't want to be here anymore. There's a long story behind it. I just didn't want to. And it was pouring down rain in Hastings. I don't know if you know Hastings at all, but they've got these benches that sort of overlook the sea, and they're in these sort of really sort of sheltered benches. And I was just sat there, and it was awful. But you know, this guy, homeless guy, come and sat next to me, and he was talking to me and just waffling. And as I was sat there, it's just things started becoming clearer and clearer. Then he stood up and it's pouring down rain and said, you know, whatever the weather throws you, mate, there's always sun coming. And then I realised, and it felt really bizarre to me, that he was really dry. So I don't know where it came from, but it was pouring down, but he was dry. And it felt the most bizarre thing. And then he walked off, and I all just felt better. I drove back to Newbury, and then life got better from there. And I think these stories happen, don't they? Something will trigger you, but it's the what if that doesn't trigger you, and that's the hard bit, isn't it? You know, when people go past that moment.
No, but it's that sense of impending doom, isn't it? Are you like, this relationship's going around and this work, I'm going to lose my job, I'm not going to be able to pay the bills. But when it actually happens, it's very rarely as bad as we think it is. Cause
well, look at you now, you've got a great job now. and I don't know why your missus puts up with you, but look at your missus.
Yeah.
I was going to say Auntie's sat here with us. But,
Yes, definitely. But it's that taboo, isn't it? And I just don't know why it's a taboo
I think
subject.
there's such a conversation about it when people are talking about it, and when people have been impacted by it directly, and I'm sure we all have in this room. I certainly have, you know, and then we spoke about it previously about our kind of own personal experiences where people have taken their own lives or made serious attempts to. And kind of one of the things that people say, and that the survivors that are left behind, people that are left behind, it sometimes is just how selfish they think that person's been. So there's that kind of shame around it. So actually, if you're in that place, and I think, you know, if you're there and you genuinely start to think that people are going to be better off without you, but we all know, you know, suicide is selfish. That's what people say. So whether or not that's correct or not, that's kind of the conversation that happens around it.
To those, because you know the only thing we do know about death for certain is those that are left behind miss you. And so it feels very selfish, doesn't it? But at the moment, in that moment in time,
You don't see that, no.
They don't see that at all.
I
And
mean,
actually,
the person close to me recently that attempted it, I went through all the motions. I was really cross. I still don't really know how I feel, a bit disappointed, a bit sad. But in all due, you know, I'm really grateful that it didn't work out that way. And I'm hoping that it will bring us closer. But it's really difficult, isn't it? Because if you're in that headspace, and when you are in that headspace, everything feels bad. Like everything around you can feel bad. You can't even look at a bunch of flowers and it's a beautiful bunch of flowers. They're awful bunch of flowers. That, you know, it's really difficult. So I feel bad for feeling cross as well that they tried that. But yeah.
Do you think there's almost a bit more of an acceptance though, and it's not right acceptance, that it's kind of, it's not so much of a kind of a shock factor, or when it's a female that attempts it, or a female takes their own life, because men are meant to be strong, and you know, you had your boys get down to hoodie on earlier, and actually that recognition that men are meant to kind of shoulder the load, and you talk about kind of how you felt about with regards to kind of financial responsibility and providing, and actually
they're the breadwinners.
For a man, if they feel like they're not in that position when they're able to kind of provide for their family, etc., kind of that sense of perhaps shame, etc., that feeling. It's almost kind of more of a shock when a man does it, but we know, you know, in our town there's been some really tragic losses of young men. You know, we kind of went through a bit of a spate of it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Where, you know, where young men were.
But hopefully now with social media and the way things are going, that people realise actually it doesn't make you less of a man, it just makes you a human. And I'm trying to teach my son it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to feel cross, but you need to try and talk about it.
Social media, though, they need to take some really responsibility, because it's both ways. Isn't
Yes.
it? You've got people on there that are pushing kids into doing awful things. I mean, all these trends that you see all the time, you know, go and eat a tablet from the dishwasher for a laugh, and all the things that you know are going to hurt kids. It's nonsense, isn't it? But social media, Meta, they need to take some bigger responsibility.
Yeah, they do. Absolutely. Yeah.
And there's like a, you know, you've got to look like this, and you've got to act like this, and you've got to wear this, and actually no, you're okay to be you, and that's fine. It doesn't matter if you're different, and I'm grateful I'm very different. I'm very odd and very weird.
And but you're clearly different.
But I've come to terms with that, and I've started to accept that. I know my flaws and I know my positives, and actually that's okay. I'm not perfect. I'm a human being. I'm not a computer. Even they go wrong.
I think we've got to be careful when we talk about this, you know, how important it is to talk, and it is important to talk, and of course it is, but we can't assume that, you know, just getting someone to talk either to friends, colleagues, family, or even kind of health professionals, that's going to be enough sometimes. We have to recognise that some people are, you know, very, very mentally unwell, and it's kind of very complex, and it's very deep rooted, and it might have been a condition that's affected them their whole lives. And in that case, talking isn't always going to be enough, and I think we have to accept that, and it's a hard reality to accept. But yeah, it's good to talk, of course it is, and good to support. But
there are
people.
other ways. If you don't want to talk, or if talking's not going to help, there are other ways, and it's understanding where.
Services are so stretched, though, aren't they? And you know, and people that I've known, and you know, kind of perhaps, you know, there's kind of been failings within the services, but not because one person in particular has failed, but because it's so stretched, and there's not enough money, and there's not enough funding, and there's not enough staff, and you know, and in that way, people aren't then given the support that they desperately need, and are able to kind of take their own lives in secure units when there's, you know, they're supposed to be kind of under watch all the time, etc. But they still are able to do that, and I think that's a truth that we need to kind of acknowledge. Really,
sometimes you can go too far, and
I think
it's such a dark place.
Definitely, I think that's absolutely right. I think, Lee, one of the things that I think would be really interesting to get across to people also is about, if the worst happens to one of your friends and you've seen them the day before, quite often you go, do you know what, I only saw him yesterday? And I feel awful. Why didn't I spot it? And we have to really talk about that, because I think people can feel absolutely terrible, can't they? Because you can't, like I say, you can't always spot it.
No.
People who have been living with issues that we're talking about for many years have this shield, and you would never know. You just know them like that, and they might be a bit down sometimes, but you would never know. And I think you cannot beat yourself up, mate, can you?
No, 100%. Has anyone seen that? The suicide video about Norwich Football Club. So there's two supporters.
Yes, another one.
And they come into the game every day. One's really happy, and one's, you can tell he's miserable. He's unhappy, and obviously it goes for game after the game, and these two guys are sitting next to each other. And you're obviously watching the video, and you know where it's going. You know that the miserable guy is gonna kind of not be there at the end. But at the end of the video, it's actually the smiling, happy one who's took his own life. And it's
a really powerful video, isn't it?
Yeah,
when you watch it. But I think sometimes, from people that I've spoken to that have experienced it and have actually gone, actually they went through a really down period a couple of months ago, but over the last month or so, they've been really happy and they've been really positive, and I thought they turned a corner. And actually the reality is that some people, when they've made that final decision and they've got that date and they know how they're going to do it, that burden is lifted, and they feel that sense of relief. So actually, they are happy for those kind of few weeks of their life, because they know they're not going to be around for much longer.
Yes, it's quite similar to people say that cancer patients, just before they die, they have that moment of lucidity, and it's almost to say goodbye to the family. And I think sometimes
they're tying up loose ends, they're paying their bills, they're making sure that everything's sorted as it needs to be, they're not leaving anything behind for their family to deal with, and they're really on it. So you look at it and you go, actually they're being really productive, they're like on the game, and they're better. And actually,
and I didn't know that was a thing until one day my dad rang me on FaceTime from Gibraltar, and he was like, I feel amazing, I feel really good. I didn't think nothing of it, I just thought he was having a good day, and he was so with it, and we had a really good conversation. But because he felt so good, he said, I want to ring Uncle Martin, I want to ring Uncle such and you. And I was like, Dad, hang up and call me back later. And that was the last time I had a conversation with him.
That's
so
hard.
I'm absolutely gutted, because I'm his only child and he absolutely loved my son. And I wish I had just take it, but I also wanted him to share that moment. And I didn't know it was only going to be for half a day. I thought he was going to be like this all day. This is just a good day. But I didn't know that was a thing, and it is actually a thing. Like, he was on top form. He was, I feel amazing, I'm going to be okay. And that was the last conversation.
And it doesn't matter if it's suicide or death, does it? I mean, in those final moments, I mean, my dad passed away very recently, and there was a moment which I had to have a word with myself about, actually, because I was holding his hand, and he was struggling to breathe. He had cancer, all riddled, and I've been sat on this little stool for hours just holding his hand, and I said to him, I've just got to go out for a minute. And my sister phoned me about 45 minutes, an hour later, and said, you must come in. And I was out in my van, and so I sort of pulled myself together and went in there, and he was holding my mum's hand and my sister's hand. They're both crying, and he was gasping for air, absolutely gasping. I put my hand on his chest really gently and said, Dad, it's okay, mate, we're here, just relax. And he went, and for me, I was like heartbroken, because I was like, have you been suffering for an hour waiting for me to come back? Because for me, it was really hard, because I was just like, I could have been here 20 minutes ago, half an hour ago. When I left, you weren't ready, but now you really were, and you were fighting for me to come back. That's what it felt like. So I think we have to be really mindful and kind to ourselves in this moment, and go, actually.
Well, the same sort of thing happened for me. So Dad then obviously was sedated and so on and so forth, and I was told I need to get there, and he wanted to see me, whereas originally when he was diagnosed, I don't want you to see me out. And my uncle had said, do you want to see her? And he said yes. So I went to get on a plane, flew over, and apparently he nearly passed in the night. And they said, no, hold on, she's in the air, she's about to land, and he did. But then he went on for another 12 hours, and then I had that guilt, because I thought, has he actually really waited for me? Because they said the amount of times he nearly passed, but he actually sat there, not sat there, but laid there, waiting for me.
Forcing himself to be there for you. Yeah. And they say that people do wait for you, and and it did feel like for me that my dad was waiting for permission for me, wanted me to be with my mum, but I can kid you not, it was seconds, 30, 40 seconds of me putting my hand on his chest and calmly saying it's okay. But it's hard, and I just think whatever happens to the people that are listening to this, be kind to yourself around this.
The people left behind, regardless of whether it's cancer or suicide.
I think that's almost like the equivalent of obviously someone that's that poorly with cancer or something, or a physical condition, they can't quite get all their kind of ducks in a row with regards to tying things up and getting things kind of in order as such, but then it becomes really important to them to make sure that everyone that they want to say goodbye to, they say goodbye to. And I think that's the thing about when someone's kind of decided, in some cases, to take their own lives, that they're so keen and they're so adamant on making sure that everything is in order as it should be, and might appear really, really happy when actually it's just because they've made that final decision.
But don't get paranoid, because not everyone running around with a smile on their face is in this condition. Are you well? Are you well?
I'm still thinking about you sat on a little stool, John. How little was this stool that you sat on in the hospital?
Bear in mind, I'm a small guy. If I was in Robin Hood, they called me Little John. So this stool, I mean, I don't know where it came from, but it was like a solid.
No wonder you have to go and sit in your van.
I was literally, I looked like a pixie, just holding his hand like this for like hours. But yeah, I don't know where it came from, but it was tiny. But it's hard. It's hard when people pass. For those who are left behind, it's hard. And it doesn't matter if it's your mum, your dad, your family member. It doesn't even matter if it's your colleague. Somebody who you've thought a lot of can leave you with bad feelings internally, because as a caring person, you're bound to go, could there have been something I could have done?
Especially when you know they've made that decision and they've taken their own lives. So it's
preempted
almost, it. They've decided that. So it's bad enough and it's horrific enough when it's a physical illness, but actually when someone's kind of thinking about it and planning it, kind of how you process that and deal with that. And think, how can
when another friend of mine lost her mother, her words really hit home actually when Dad went, and it was the only word she could describe it is so final. It feels so final when you actually lose somebody, so it's really hard to deal with. Someone can go on holiday or go and work away and you always have that feeling of hope, or I might see them again, but that final feeling is not, it's hard to cope with.
But actually, when someone says to you that you love and you care about, that I feel this way, I feel like I want to end my own life, that's huge, isn't it? For you to kind of be able to, I mean, we touched on it previously, didn't we, about how do you respond if someone says they're not okay, but actually if someone's saying to you, actually, I don't want to be here anymore, I can't see any way out. And I think, again, that's when it's so important to not try and be a hero and make sure that we're kind of signposting people and making people aware of what kind of services and stuff are available to them, because we're not specialists in mental health. No,
can I ask you, Lee? I mean, obviously, you're being really hard on your sleeve here, aren't you? Because this is really recent. This wasn't that long ago. So you're on the beach, you're having these thoughts, and you're feeling really low, and then your phone goes, and your children, your loved ones are on your phone, and you snap out of it, and for whatever reason you go, do you know what?
Thank God you did, but
Yeah, this is silly. Whatever you thought. There's some sort of evidence, isn't there, that also you then have the guilt about feeling that way. So when you go back to your loved ones, you're sat with them holding them going, how could I put myself in this? And then you have this overwhelming internal anxiety and guilt that you even could consider that. And I think it's an ongoing thing, isn't it? It's a perpetuating
vicious circle,
isn't it?
You were on holiday?
Yeah.
So this is meant to be like a really good time. Most people go on holiday and feel much better, even if they're having a crap time, they feel better. So you were on holiday and you felt that bad.
It just, nothing could kind of like penetrate that kind of black feeling. It just seemed, like there wasn't a solution. There wasn't kind of like an option other than kind of ending it. And it's always, it's very difficult. And like I say, you have the guilt afterwards, and you have to go back and you've got to like somehow kind of like put yourself together, but you've almost got to just lean into those bad times and just see what's going to happen. So I think if one thing that I always say is that the world's going to keep turning. We all think that like the world is obsessed with us. We all think that like
The world is against
if
you.
I trip and fall over here, she
I mean,
definitely
the
is.
world is.
Yeah, if you trip and fall over, everyone's going to remember that for the rest of their life. The issue is, no one cares. They've all got their own problems to look after. Everyone's
Life goes on.
We've said that
Life
before,
goes
haven't
on.
we? About when you're trying to support friends and stuff, that actually you kind of get yourself in this really dark headspace. But it's not. People have got their own stuff they're kind of dealing with. So Lee, when that happened, like, how did you kind of process that and deal with that when you went back after that? And how
I was just
how
about
did
to say
you
that.
how did you get out of that place? Because that's a really dark,
How
horrible
did you
place to be
feel
in.
when you returned back to your family after having that moment?
it was time to kind of just face it. It was time to.
Did you talk about it when you got back to your family?
No.
You just dealt with it.
I handed me notice in. I then kind of like knew it was coming, so I lent into the inevitable. Ended up in a really good place career-wise. But yeah, it was kind of like the fear of that impending doom is never as bad as the impending doom, because the impending doom it's a fart in the wind.
Yeah.
It is a
what
tiny
we've made
moment
it
in your
into.
life, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and things are going to be difficult if you lose your job for a month or two, but it'll be all right.
But at the time, though, it can feel really dark, can't it? Because I spoke about a relative earlier that kind of survived cancer, and then as a result of being so poorly, they've been made redundant from work, and as a result of being so poorly with cancer, they then couldn't do any work at all. So then they were losing the house, and the bank was knocking on the door, and bailiffs were there, and they're threatening to repossess the home and stuff. And when that person's in it, it just feels so incredibly dark, and you just think, how the hell am I going to get out of this situation? And
It's a lot to have on your own head.
Yes,
isn't
there's
it?
like the mental health side of things, but then there's also the practicalities of life. When that goes wrong, that then has such a huge impact as well, doesn't it? So that's not kind of a medical imbalance in the brain. That's like life things that are happening, really, really important things that are all going wrong all at the same time. And how are people supposed to process that? And it can be really difficult to kind of get the help sometimes, can't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It can be. I mean, especially if you've built yourself up to a point where, and you always see like the kind of like the videos of like stockbrokers throwing themselves out like windows when the stock market crashes, because some people have built themselves up to that point that when they lose a job or lose income, then
Well, the career defines them sometimes, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah,
And there's a
absolutely.
lot of people like that, and it's just a bit tough. So yeah, it is a bit of a tough situation, but I think, like I say, the world's going to keep turning. The world's going to keep going. People are going to get on with their lives. If we look back to when the Queen died, now the Queen, I'm not going to get into who's a royalist and who's not, and all politics and
No
stuff
politics.
like that. No politics.
No Keir Starmer.
Anyway, the Queen died, and for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we were like, as a country, mourning, and everyone was like talking about it, and everyone was like, when was the last time anyone mentioned the Queen? And she's going to do more in her lifetime, whether you're a royalist or not, than anyone else in this. Like, probably there's not many people in the planet that are going to do more than the Queen did, but she's obviously her legacy is bulletproof,
Yeah.
but for the most part she's forgotten about because we've gone on with our
We've
lives.
moved on. Yeah, like you say, the world keeps turning. It
That's
really
what
does.
my relative said to me in my dad's funeral. Actually, we sort of sat there in this really, really busy bar with the wake, and all these cars were going past them. We're in Gibraltar. It's a bit like Spain. Everyone's whizzing by, and there's beeping horns. And he was like, "Look out there, life just goes
Life
on."
goes on.
And at the time, you think, well, why? It doesn't feel fair, does it? Everyone should be feeling how I'm feeling, but yeah, it does. It does. The world just keeps spinning.
Because how often have you driven down the road and you see the cars coming towards you? Wonder what they're thinking about. Wonder what they're going to do. What they're going to do. And everyone has a different journey they're on, haven't they? And you just don't know.
No, I touched on it earlier I spoke about it earlier, and kind of my experiences when my little girl was born, and after she had been born, and I started to kind of heal from the C-section, and I've been sat in this room, just literally like in these four walls, and hadn't felt fresh air for like days. And I said to the hospital staff, "Can I go for a walk?" And I just went for a walk around Heavytree, and I just was like, I felt like a zombie, like in just
Standard.
this weird, just this weird like mental state, and people were walking and they were doing their shopping and the cars were going by, and I'm like, how is life just happening around me?
Like, does anybody know what I'm going
and
through
of course
right
they
now?
didn't.
Yeah, no, of course
but
not.
But I just walking, like, honestly, like, just the biggest brain fog, and couldn't be, like, almost kind of gripping onto the wall, thinking, like, shit, I can't cope with being out
It's
here,
like
because
you're in
normal
this
life's
weird
still
bubble,
happening.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
normal life's
I'm
still
in this
happening.
weird bubble. Nobody can see I'm in this bubble, and nobody knows how I'm feeling, and why are they okay? So it's a very strange feeling.
I'm not okay, they're okay, and how do you deal with not being okay when it seems like everybody else around you
And they
is?
probably aren't okay though.
No.
They're probably just walking along in their own days.
Yeah. No, definitely.
I mean, this is a hard one, isn't it? I mean, it's this podcast feels very different to the one we did earlier, the first one. I think because we know that mental health is one thing, management is one thing, but going past that stage is horrific.
Really, this is the worst it can get.
You can't imagine what must be going through that individual's
Those
mind
moments,
in that moment where you're saying, actually, I'm so done. I'm upset. I'm past caring.
And that's what I said earlier. I got to a point where I was upset and angry and cross, but then at the same time I was relieved that they didn't. But it's... What am I trying to say?
Who knows? Whoever knows.
It's you. It's how you process that, and how you kind of dealt with that.
Yeah, I just think it.
But you were feeling guilty.
But I also feel guilty. But I also realised that it must have been bad, and they must have felt so like, I'm done. I'm really done. So there's me going, I can't believe you've done this and you were going to leave us. But actually, what I should be doing is trying to relate. Is that what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to relate and understand how that person must have been feeling, because I know that person absolutely adores her family and children and whatever. So she must have been feeling really crap be doing that. And there's me going, no, thinking about me. So it's cross emotions. I felt cross, I felt angry, but then I feel bad and guilty for feeling like that. And actually, that person must have felt really, really low.
But your feelings are valid as well, though, Jen, and the way that you
absolutely.
And you have to process those.
Everyone's
you have to
feelings
process
are valid.
those feelings as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been really tough, and I'm still trying to process it.
Be kind. Yeah. I think we also have to. Every person that passes, doesn't matter if they're through cancer or suicide, is sad. But I think sometimes what's even more sad is that you have a percentage of people that go through suicide who actually didn't particularly want to go. They were just doing it for effect, to try and get some attention, to call out for help, and it just went that one phase too far. And that's even worse, isn't it?
But sometimes we'll never know, though, will we? We'll never know if that person who took their own life, whether or not they were successful in doing what they set out to do, or whether or not it was a cry for help that went a bit too far. And actually, if somebody's feeling that bad and that desperate and that low that they're going to go to those extremes for a cry for help, then that's something else really serious as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
can be just even someone being under the influence of a bit of alcohol. If you're already feeling bad, drinking alcohol or taking drugs or whatever, it's going to make you feel worse. And then that can
momentary reprieve.
Lead you to actually act on it. And, I think it's really important, if you are feeling low, try not to, turn to those things. And people do.
It's easy, isn't it?
Self-medicating, isn't it?
It's close by. You're not on a waiting list.
Yeah.
And you're kind of feeling that weak and vulnerable. You don't want to feel like that anymore.
One of the things that I really want to get across, and I think we're rubbish at it in the UK, is we're expecting vulnerable people who are feeling very low, very sad, very judged, to go into places for help that feel really sort of massive. So if I'm feeling low now, right this minute in time, I don't want to tell my friends, for whatever reason, my options are walk into a hospital full of people.
Anxiety's through the roof, isn't it?
Massive place where you feel, I really feel uncomfortable just thinking about it, I'm not going to go there. Into a police station? I'm not going to go to a police station. So we don't give them anywhere to go.
That's really true.
If you had a 24-hour cafe that was manned by some really astute mental health workers, where you go, do you know what? Come in and just sit down and have a coffee. It's really calm. Right. It's really cool. No one's going to judge you. And do you know what? If it gets too bad, I've got a private room at the back. We can just go and have a chat. I'll just listen. I'll just make you coffee all bloody night. But I think we have to give people a place to go where they feel comfy. I wouldn't feel comfy going into
No.
A&E.
I was just about to say, you're stood at a desk and there's a waiting room full of people behind you,
Why would
and they're
you do
saying,
it?
"What's wrong with you?
You've
You've
got
got
nowhere
to
to go.
shout out, I've got sickness and diarrhea." That's bad enough, but to say I'm having mental health issues, I wanna kill myself. Like, how do you do that in front of anyone, let alone a room full of strangers at a desk? So yeah, that's a really good idea.
That's something that we need to think about as a nation, isn't it? How do we provide safe spaces that people feel comfortable for attending?
Would that have helped you though, Lee? That day when you were kind of so close.
Not in Mallorca, I don't think.
Probably not, but I mean, it's definitely an epidemic. I mean, towards the end of February, I come across a post that I think it was World Meters, so all kind of like backed up with statistics. 165,000 people had killed themselves at the end of February globally.
Which is why we've got doing this actually.
Yeah, so that's 165,000 people. Now, I'm a tab monster, so when I'm working, I never close tabs until I've got like a meeting or presentation, something. So, always got like hundreds of tabs. And
This computer's slow.
My computer's like me. Yeah, we get on fine. We're both lagging. Yeah, I'm basically like Adele. There's 50 tabs open, and I'm not sure where the music's coming from.
I was going to say, so you get the information, hang on a minute.
That's ADHD.
But I went back to that tab like 5 days later, and 172,000.
I was on the phone to you because you literally went, John, it's
How
data's
many?
changed.
172,000. So in the space of 5 days or 4 days, I can't remember how many days it was.
It wasn't many.
It wasn't many. It had gone up to 172,000 people.
Yeah.
Now that's obviously globally, and it's a big world, isn't it?
Yeah.
But those numbers are terrifying. Absolutely heartbreaking. And I think you mentioned about police stations, and that's one of my. I'm going to try to not get on my soapbox now.
Just do it. Get on a soapbox.
I'm going to fail miserably. So
Standard.
we've obviously got the Mental Health Act. So do we all know the full title of the Mental Health Act? So
No.
it's the Mental Health Act 1983.
And that's terrifying because, I mean,
Can you imagine what were we doing in 1983? I mean,
Well, I wasn't even around then, so.
I was riding a bike around crying about my knees being scraped.
was it a chopper?
So I had a rally striker, mate. A silver one.
I don't even know what that means.
So it's a tiny little bike.
I don't care.
Well, if you had one now, it'd be stolen this day and age.
Yeah.
Someone would have robbed it and resold it.
One thing about my striker that I remember was, there wasn't stablers back then, and my dad put me on when I was about 60-minute ride. We didn't have a car, so I spent the whole day falling off my bike.
But you're right though. We should have moved on from 1983.
Yeah,
That's
I think-
insane.
Yeah, at the beginning of this year, there are some reforms that have been planned, and one of those is that someone who's suffering with mental health will never have to spend time in a police station. Because if you can imagine, if you're going through
Sorry,
a
John, we're
tough
boring
time, we always are.
He's
We
looking
just,
for a picture of his bike now.
Scrolling through Facebook.
I'm sure someone said to us when we were starting this podcast, make sure your phones
I
are off.
know.
My
I'm
phone's
not-
in
I'm
another
looking-
room.
I'm
It's
trying
good
to
for
see-
me.
Mine's over there because
Nobody
we're
wants to see
live
your
on
phone.
TikTok. Can you imagine how kind of like when you're in the middle of a mental health crisis, if you phone someone up and say I'm struggling, or we haven't got enough places or hospitals, we're going to put you in a police cell.
I know.
That is literally the last place.
But they do, for your own protection. And you're sat there going,
You're in trouble. You've almost, effectively been arrested.
And it depends what's going on in the other cells, because cells aren't renowned for being
It's
full
not
of
very
polite,
it's not a
for
spa, is
polite
it?
people. So there's not going to be a lot of noise. There's probably going to be some drunk next to you who's like banging on, making loads of noise. There could
And
be.
your head's already noisy enough, and then you've got to kind of deal with all that. And to be locked up in such a kind of cold clinical environment. That's
Yeah, especially when there's like no windows as well, and you can't see past those
Yeah.
well,
windows.
and like you say, you do feel like you've done something wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm
You'd feel
being
more alone,
punished
wouldn't
for
you?
being down.
Yeah.
You'd feel more alone being sort of locked.
I have
in
seen
a-
more things recently, like because I usually walk my dogs in Baker's Park, and even though, and it's quite subtle, and maybe it could be a bit more kind of public, but I get the need for it to be discreet. But there's kind of QR codes and stuff now, and on the benches, they're kind of coming to sit with us. So actually, if someone was sat in that type of environment and they are feeling, it might hopefully be enough to kind of prompt them if they are sat on a bench kind of contemplating stuff.
Clients do?
I think it takes them through to kind of, you know, to a helpline or a Samaritan or something like that.
It, and I thought it was a really good idea, but then at the same time, would you spot it? If you're that bad and you're feeling that and everything's terrible and you're walking through the woods or whatever you're doing and you're in that mindset, are you going to be looking at the notice board? Because I know I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't when I'm in a good mood.
I haven't noticed them.
Do you know what I mean? So I think it's brilliant that they've done that. Absolutely fantastic.
I noticed some more on the bench the other day, but I suppose it's just kind of that more, a little bit more visibility. It's kind of out there more. It's not such, you know, hopefully people aren't going to see it as such like a taboo subject.
And hopefully the people that aren't suffering will notice them.
Yeah.
And they can maybe look around them and spot someone sat on a bench on their own looking sad.
I've gone up to people before, you know, I was in Cornwall with my mum and a young lad was kind of sat on a kind of cliff top thing, and I was like, whoa, I just need to go and check. I was like, are you okay? And he's like, oh yeah, no, thank you for asking, I genuinely am. But I think if we can all try and do a little bit more of that as well, if we see people kind of sat by themselves.
Because even if he wasn't, you just doing that showed that he was a person.
Yeah,
and he could be seen, because sometimes you feel invisible. And like the world, like you say, the world goes on, doesn't it? Everyone's flashing
just like
past
that
you.
guy coming up to you and you know.
Most bizarre thing, honestly, I still sit to the day and go, how the hell was he driving? It's like
Probably your guardian angel,
And you know, that's what it felt like at the time. But it snapped me out of what I was doing, and that's the main thing, you know. And actually, I tell you now, I think I probably wouldn't have been here. It was that bad at the time.
See, I think I've been in a state where I was thinking silly thoughts, but I don't think I would have gone through it. And it was way before my child. And I was actually in Courtney Park, and it was silly o'clock in the morning, and a friend of mine, it sounds terrible that we were trying to get him sectioned, but he needed help. There was about 26 of us trying to get this guy sectioned. Unless he was a danger to himself or to society, we couldn't do so. Anyway, we had had a bit of a row. It was silly o'clock in the morning. I'm sat in the bands and I'm crying my eyes out, thinking, train station's just down there. Maybe I could just do that. In my head, I wasn't in that place where I was going to do it. Then I started going through my phone, thinking, who can I call? It was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had no one. And I'm getting more and more upset. And then I heard this, and suddenly I thought, I'm vulnerable, I'm a female, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm in a park, and it's dark, and who the hell is that? And I still feel to this day, a bit probably like your experience, I don't think there was anyone there. I definitely heard a cough, 1000%. Heard a very loud cough. It scared the living hell out of me. But suddenly I went from, everything's terrible, I don't want to be here, let's go down to the train station, maybe I should do this, to suddenly, oh dear, I'm really vulnerable right now, I need to get out of this situation. So that did snap my train of thought.
And then you were afraid for your mortality. So even though you were considering ending it, then you were afraid for yourself.
I was afraid of getting hurt. What if this man's a horrible man who's going to do silly, you know, horrible things to me? I don't know. So I ran as fast as I could.
At that point, you potentially realise, actually, I do want to be here.
Yeah.
I'm so scared that something was going to happen.
And I don't think I would have ever got to that, and I don't think I would have ever taken it, but I was in that mindset. But when I started going through the phone and I didn't have anyone to call at that time of day, I was thinking, well, actually, you know, and it was at that point I had the cough. And sometimes it just takes that little, even one person asking if you're okay, doesn't it? Or, you know, an experience like ours.
No, I agree. This is deep, guys,
it is
isn't
deep,
it?
isn't it?
This is deep. It's raw. So keep us
way.
moving, Lee. Keep us moving, because I'm going to cry.
So, how do you even start a conversation about suicide without making it awkward or scary?
I think it is scary, Lee, and I think we have to accept that and embrace that and try not to make anything but that, because it's enormous, it's such a huge subject and it's so complex.
It's very dark,
and
isn't it?
People have got their own reasons and people are going to be driven by their own kind of reasons for doing it. So I think, first of all, we kind of need to accept that it is scary, but normalise the fact that it's scary and accept that. And, you know, for those conversations to be had, they're huge conversations to have, but I don't think we should try and consider it anything but scary, because it is that enormous.
I also think you have to
acknowledge that.
Absolutely, acknowledge the fact that it could be anybody.
Yeah.
You know, you can't walk downtown and see somebody who's homeless and assume that they're the next person, because they might be really, really happy, and it might be your best friend who's got everything in his or her life. Doesn't matter what you've got, if you're in that spiral. You're in that spiral.
Absolutely. Yeah. Whether you're rich or not, or whether you've got your health or not, it's...
Who's just throwing your phone on the floor and your worries is broken.
Stroppy. I'll stamp on it.
What were you doing? Were you looking for pictures of your bike, or what you doing?
I was looking at bike porn. I mean, yeah.
Save that for later.
Just for everyone, he said bike, not buy.
Only when you're around me.
No, it's
I was Googling to see around the Mental Health Act and seeing really all the dates around it. But I just think it's such a hard subject.
Life's changed a lot since then, hasn't it?
Yeah,
It really has changed since then.
Everything's changed.
It's not just changed, it's a different planet.
It's different, yeah, completely.
But the same things happen, mate.
That thing on the floor, I mean, in 1983, you'd go out and someone would have to wait till you get back in to either give you a call, or it might be an email.
Or you might
phone box.
You might use phone box to phone box to
reverse
make sure.
But also, you were saying...
remember that?
Yeah, I still don't know the number.
Do you know what? My granddad,
remember
so they had, in the hallway, they had... the phone table as you used to do back in the day. My granddad has got the same hairstyle as me, but his was combed over because it was the fashion in the day. And I always remember whenever he went to pick the phone up, he'd always look in the mirror and like,
just in case someone could see you later.
Do you know what I mean? It's just, but yeah, it was just phone to phone, letters.
I've got a great story about this.
People would talk more. My mum would be on the phone for hours, doodling it, and I'm like, "Are you still on the phone to Auntie?" Yes, it's 2
I
hours.
just get frustrated with text all the time. I'd much rather phone. So people email me, right, from the NHS. I just pick up the phone straight away and ring them. I'm like, John, I'm busy. Well, you just email me. I want to talk.
Yeah, no, emails, text. I'd much rather. Someone said to me, "Anna, you love a voice note." I was like, I hate texting. I absolutely hate it. It's long. It's boring.
What do I do?
It's just too. It's too much.
And you misread it.
Yeah, you misread the tone. You can't pick up on
and
it.
I'm so lazy, I won't text. I actually talk to my phone to text rather than do a voice note.
Oh,
I
honestly,
press the button.
The
it never
nonsense
makes sense.
you receive, and you kind of
It's
look
like
at
Jenna
it
code, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to work it out what it means because there's no vocabulary.
I've got to tell you a story about the phone case because my dad, I don't know, 15 years ago, my ex-girlfriend, who was the love of my life back in the day, like 15 years old, she moved into this flat in Newbury. Her and her husband moved in. They just had the phone line connected. The phone rings. Hello, is that Peter there? No, Peter doesn't live here. Is that Bob? And my dad had rung this number, wrong number, got my ex on the phone, and they sat on the phone for like an hour and 45 minutes. And her husband went, "Who was that?" She went, "Just a missed call." Just the wrong number. And my dad was like, "We've just spoken to Tara for like 2 hours."
But isn't it great that people used to talk more?
Yeah.
Like, I know it's great that we've got mobiles, and it's great that we can contact anyone anywhere, and you know, we can send a voice note in the morning, quick, "Hey babe, how are you? You know, I hope you have a good day." That's lovely. But when we actually used to use phones rather than voice, I mean, sometimes I think, why don't we just pick up the phone and have a conversation?
Even you and I, the amount of voice notes we send per day. If I phone you or you phone me, I'll say, "Did you mean to phone me?" And it's like,
it's a pocket dial.
But we've definitely lost them, haven't we?
Yeah, we've lost the
connection.
communication.
So children cannot communicate now, can they?
No.
I mean, if you took their phones away and put them in a room, it'd take them all day before they started properly talking. They're all got anxiety about how they feel. They're always feeling judged. I could text you whatever I want because you can hide behind text.
It's too easy, isn't it? It's way too easy.
I think it's a really important point we're making actually. We've lost the art of that kind of that human interaction and kind of how that can feel and that openness with each other and you know how to have a conversation because it's so easy to hide behind a screen, isn't it? So there's so much benefits to technology. Of course there is.
And I look at like me. I was a really sociable person. I wanted to be out every night. I would be quite happy just going round to a friend's house every single evening, a different friend, and sitting there and just having a chat and a cup of tea. Now, I like to be on my own, and I can't work out whether that's because things have changed so much. Life is so stressful, and all these phones, because I'm maybe on the phone to you and all my friends all day, maybe it's because I don't feel like I need to go round to your house.
And that's okay for that. And the
That
nice
is
thing about
okay,
it is
but then
you
it's
might
not-
change those. And
That's not me. Do you know what I mean? Like, for years, Well, it is now, yeah, but why is it? Why have I suddenly gone from wanting to see my friends? Is it because they are just there on the end of my phone all the time?
I just think you grow out of it. I mean,
Yeah,
I
of
used to
course
be
you do.
a real. I mean, back in the 90s, I spent every weekend and every day of the week thinking about the weekend, going raving, free partying. How am I going to get my pills and my Charlie or whatever it was back in the day that we'd all do? And yes, you know, I'm not proud of it, but I'm also not ashamed of it.
No, no.
You know, we had the best time. Would I do it now? I couldn't think of anything worse. You know, I wouldn't even go. I mean, I walked in a pub the other day, randomly looking for somebody, and I went, "Oh my god, what am I doing here?" I was in there about 3 seconds and walked out.
So do you think it's an age thing then, or do you think it is just because things have changed? Do you think because the pub settings changed? Would you go to the pub if it was the same as what it used to be, or is it just you as a person?
I just think you just grow out of this. You just change as a person. It's not that I wouldn't want to go and have a laugh. I would. So if we all, as a podcast team, went, do you know what, we're going to go and celebrate, we're going to go out to the pub, we'd go out and we'd have a laugh. Would I choose to do it regularly? No. Not at all, I wouldn't. But I'd embrace it because you're with your mates.
Yeah.
But you, I mean, I can't. I'm a piss poor drinker. There's the two things that come to mind. One, I don't do hangovers. And two, I'm too big, so I fall over. People just roll me in hedge and leave me. They can't pick me up. So, you know.
I mean, to be fair, I do that for all three of you, so it doesn't matter the size.
I just think it's.
I've got a bad shoulder.
I know it's nice to be comfortable in your own home, and in it, you know, people do get older, but I would much rather be at home on my own than
I think
go and see a
there is
friend.
something about kind of socialising with friends and spending that time with friends and having those open conversations with them, and I do think we've lost that, and part of that is as a result. But like you say, it's just too easy. We can sit on a sofa and communicate with them.
Yeah, it would be nice if maybe one day we didn't send 167,000 voice notes and actually said, "I'll be round at 6.
Yeah,
let's have a cup of tea and a cup, you know, a slice of cake."
For me, I mean, that's
and have a cuddle.
Yeah, I'd much rather say, do you know what? We go for a walk somewhere, and do you know what? The amount of times I've woken up in my van, opened the back door, and there's been a lake there, dropped in the lake, chilled out, you know, sat there. I would much rather do that with my mates.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, some of the best times I have is when I love kind of cold water swimming and stuff, and
I don't like
going
it.
for walks and stuff.
Freezing.
I absolutely love it. But and there's that thing about connecting with nature, and there's that app at the moment, isn't there? That's really it's really kicked off doing really, really well. Touch the grass.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and
Is that
someone's created it in their bedroom, and it's really gone viral. And it literally they'll notice if your phone will notice if you've spent too much time on social media or WhatsApp, etc. And it will shut down those apps until you physically go outside into nature and take a photo of you with your hand on the grass. And it's and then it will kind of reopen the apps again, but it's encouraging people to get outside and experience that nature and stuff.
Especially for teenagers.
It's just some geezer in his room that's just kind of sat and done it, and it's yeah.
That's really rad because I was literally talking about that with someone earlier, saying
Of course you
phones, piss off, phones should shut down. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's you're missing it because it's quite.
You make me swear.
It is really important though to ground yourself, and actually, like I was saying about the podcast being really helpful to me recently, is just having that time to just be, put your feet on the ground and close your eyes and just listen to the noise around you. It doesn't matter if the washing machine's going or the car's going past. Just have a moment.
You are a tree hugger, aren't you?
I'm not a tree hugger, but I am going to try it.
Okay.
Because I actually read something the other day that it's really good for you because the roots go so far into the ground. That's why people do feel, don't frown at me. I'm going to take you hugging trees now.
We will do the next
We're going to hug
podcast
trees.
on situ, on location. My matters does
I've actually got a generator out there so we can go and do sort of camper van, care in a camper van podcast.
Shall we?
We could do that. We could literally
Me and
go
Emma
up to
could hang
Dartmoor.
upside down from a tree.
Okay. Yes.
We could go up to Dartmoor, do a podcast, and then watch you dive in the lake while we roll about laughing.
I did that already, and I've got photographic evidence. It's brilliant.
I don't mind the cold.
You've got to
mind
the water.
Mate, I was in minus 16
like
the other week.
showers.
The worrying thing is, a woman walked past and said, "You've inspired me. I'm going to
I
do
am
it now."
inspirational.
The water was so dirty.
It was disgusting.
It was
a swamp.
awful. It was green and it's black and brown.
Anyway,
that comes up
talking
great
about?
for us.
Oh dear.
Where have we gone?
Completely off track.
Lee, help us.
Pulling back. Whenever I think about talking to someone about suicide, or whenever they get there, I always think of the Linkin Park song "One More Light." I don't know if anyone's heard it.
Sing it.
No, definitely.
Go on, go on. No pressure.
It's just like when there's an extra chair there, when there's an extra chair that we don't need anymore because someone's taken a life. I think that's where we need to start the conversation. Is that like it's just one more light that goes out, but to us, that light has got a huge impact.
Massive,
So
It does leave a dark shadow, mate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
huge.
Doesn't
Huge.
it?
I suppose we just need to kind of love each other and appreciate each other a bit more, and
just be kind.
just be
Yeah.
Which
And
is
if,
kind.
if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say it at all.
yeah. Just
Unless it's Emma. And then just say
You two are terrible.
don't be too nice to her.
Because you are your own potted plant. We need watering,
Yeah.
we need care, we need
Yeah,
looking
true.
after, and we need to treat ourselves like we treat our friends, like we treat our family.
Don't treat me like I treat my friends.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I'm getting a different view of you now.
I know, honestly, it's like part of it for years. But I say to people that I kind of work with closely and that I line manage, and you know, I'm constantly kind of checking in with them, and are you okay? And I can sense kind of a shift in your energy, and you're going through some really difficult, challenging stuff at work at the minute. And
That's a
you
really
can't-
good phrase,
you
shifting your energy.
yeah.
Sorry to
No,
interrupt,
but you
I like
notice it.
that.
You do notice it, don't
Yeah.
you? And I was, one of my kind of not my favourite things to say, but I say to my colleagues all the time, please go home. You can't pour from an empty cup. So the more you're kind of depleting yourself by trying to keep on going, actually in the long, you're not gonna kind of feel any better. You're just gonna knacker yourself out. So please, like whatever you've got on, it'll be there tomorrow. Just go home, and
That's really
if you're
good.
if you're feeling mentally unwell, treat yourself in the same way as you would if you're physically unwell. Take 24 hours, drink plenty of fluids, sleep, watch crap on the
If only
TV,
every
and
boss
just take
and
that time to
colleague or
recharge. And
would say that. That's
Yeah.
amazing. It's a really nice thing
Yeah.
to do, because it is true. Like my son being autistic, or some days he's just so dysregulated because he's so overwhelmed and he's so overtired and he hasn't eaten properly or he hasn't slept properly and he can't put his clothes on and everything hurts. Sometimes he just needs that reset day.
Yeah.
And I do get a lot of hassle from the school sometimes saying, why isn't he in? He's missing out on learning. Well, if he comes in today, he's not going to do any learning anyway. And actually, it's going to have a knock-on effect for the rest of the week. If he has a reset day today, he's going to come in tomorrow bright as a button. If he comes in today, he's going to be a little monkey and you're going to struggle with him. And then tomorrow, he's still going to be a monkey. And it's going to be, and that's a really good thing to do as an employer or a boss or anything. So
it's just working people out, and you kind of get what people's kind of rhythm is and stuff, don't you?
I just did not know that you were such a caring. Caring. I mean, come on.
she can be lovely. She is
I'm
lovely.
only joking. She is lovely. Once a week.
Oh.
Yeah, once a week. Once a
Put
week.
your hand
once
up
a
if you've been personally victimised by John.
I think I have.
No, I
actually.
haven't yet.
5 minutes.
I haven't yet.
I had to do this tonight. Do you know why? Because on the joint WhatsApp group, my last message from you guys was, let's beat him up, let's batter him when we see him. So I've even bought a crash helmet in just in case you did. So I'm not that terrified.
We were planning to batter John.
Yeah,
weren't we?
so
We
in my
still are.
defence.
I
It's
was
just
not
going to
involved
be
in that.
after we've done the recording.
Yeah.
Oh, is that
We're very aware you're going to be on camera. You don't want to come any bruises for the.
I'm not here tomorrow, guys.
So, what can we do as friends? Because we are in this ultra uber connected world. What can we do as friends?
I'm
to
going
make
back to
people,
that
feel
8
less
minutes.
alone.
That 8 minutes thing.
I think that's brilliant.
I like that. So
I really like
look
that.
it up. Is it Simon Sinek? His friend. I'm gonna say it again because it's a really good story. His friend texted him and he said, "You're okay," and she was like, "Oh, I really wasn't." And she said, "Well, I did." He said, "Well, why didn't you reach out?" "Well, I did. I texted you." So he went through his phone. He said, "What, this one? This same text you sent me every week? What are you doing?" She said, "Well, that was me reaching out." And then she said, "Well, actually, I've just read this thing, and everyone needs 8 minutes. So that's their code now. So every time his friends are feeling down, they literally go, have you got 8 minutes?" And then you know that you need to be able to listen, give them
so
time. And you can find 8 minutes, can't you?
I could spend longer on the toilet.
On Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly,
It's-
I think that's a really good thing to push forward. Absolutely.
But taking it back to being present, isn't it? And
Yeah.
actually, take it's 8 minutes, 20 minutes. But actually, this time is for you, and I'm kind of focused on you, and this
Dedicated.
is dedicated to you, and I'm not going to get distracted by kind of other noise and stuff that's going on. I think it's really, really important. And actually, to just remind ourselves to just kind of step away from the screens a little bit, and actually have some kind of.
Screens are great, but they are the root of all evil, I think. Sometimes they just
But
completely...
it's down to us as well to educate our children and so on and so forth. That how important it is to have that connection, and sometimes actually, i.e. this evening, I was quite busy because, you know, we were coming here, that actually I suddenly thought, I haven't spoke to my child much because I've been rushing around to get the
And
dinner
how old's
done.
your child?
He's just turned 6.
Yeah.
And I actually said, I'm really sorry, darling. I'm really sorry. Mummy's not actually showed you. He said, yes, Mummy, you need to show me some attention. He's so clever. I said, I'm really sorry. Tomorrow is all about you. And actually, I was quite surprised he let me come here.
Yeah, yeah.
So then I felt even worse because I've never done, you know, sort of left him in an evening and gone out.
but
And
it's
then
really
I hadn't
important.
showed him attention before I went out as well.
It's so perception. I know my daughter said to me today, she was doing some drawing on the table, and she went, Daddy, and I did hear what she said. And she went, Daddy, are you gonna say whatever it was? She said, you're just on your phone. I was like,
It's because up here we've got so much going on. Actually, even if it's 30 minutes, life isn't going to change in 30 minutes. If we put our phone down, even if there's an email that we really need to send.
Yeah, I quite often say,
really
actually, I'm putting my phone down now, me and Amy are going to spend time together. My phone goes on the
but
table.
you really do that. You're
face
very
down,
good.
and we have what's called a love recharge, and we just literally will just like have the biggest cuddle, but genuinely say like that is it. Phone is going down, and you know, like you say, even if it was just half an hour that evening,
Because
just
we were in a few group
connect.
messages and
Yeah,
stuff
God,
like that,
yeah,
weren't we?
crazy.
And a few times, you know, we've both said it. I've said, well, I've got to clock off now because this is my time where I co-sleep and I get into bed with him and we have our time. That's our snuggle time, and I call it snuggle o'clock. It's the best part of the day, and actually it's really important because
that's lovely. That is nice.
I then pick up my phone as soon as he falls asleep. I pick up my phone again. I'm not going to lie because I've got stuff to do. But
so with me, I mean, I've got too many email accounts on my phone. They're all work stuff, you know, and you spend your whole time just reiterate work and fixing stuff. But then you go on social media, and you're reading through, and you like a couple of things, you put it down, and you then look at the same stuff again, and the same stuff again, and you think to yourself, why? I mean, I've literally seen this post 10 times, but it's so addictive.
Yeah.
So addictive.
So the best thing to do is all your apps, either get rid of them and you have to go through Safari to log in, or turn your notifications off. My phone has not been on loud for 6 years, and I don't know how I run a business. And so many people that work for me are like, why did you not answer the phone? I didn't hear it, my phone's on silent.
I came on Facebook.
How can
3
you
or 4
run a
years.
business like it? But I can't. The ding, 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 ding. You know, I'm the worst one for it. If I message you, I'm messaging you 100 times a minute.
You reckon?
You do it to me.
Did you know that? So we met this lady online on WhatsApp about 2 weeks ago. I feel like you've known you my whole life.
We met this lady
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
0898 hashtag we're doing a podcast.
Oh dear.
But no,
I take that as a compliment.
But it's reconnecting, isn't it? It's taking that time to reconnect, kind of dedicate that time to that person, not allow yourself to get distracted, and it doesn't have to be like in excessive amount of time.
And I think parents with children, that is really, really important because we've
find
lost
stuff to do with them as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even sitting around the table, turn the devices off.
I'd say
Have that time where how was your day? Do you know what I mean? That is the time you're going to connect. That is time children will relax.
Well, it is with her. I don't remember.
But also think about other ways.
It's all right.
You know, if you've got teenagers and things, you know, some of the hardest conversations are best to have when you're driving and stuff.
Yeah.
Where you're not on your
doesn't
tablet.
feel forced.
And you just don't feel forced. You can just have a really relaxed time. I mean, with Heidi, she's 6, and I take her up onto Dartmoor. We just go up and climb all over the rocks.
Yeah.
We
No
find
distractions.
all the little pots and things.
Yeah.
And do you know what? She doesn't stop talking.
Yeah.
At home, she won't say a word hardly. Out walking.
It's the same with Amy. Yeah, but out in nature, we're doing stuff together. It's just me and her, and we just walking the dogs or whatever. It's just kind of much more fluid and much more natural.
And I think it's because they know that they've got your attention. Your attention isn't anywhere else. You haven't got work there. You haven't got the animals around your pets or whatever you've got. There's no TVs. There's no radio. There's nothing. And sometimes people want to fill that silent space.
And I think that's a key consideration for mental health, isn't it? No one's got time for me.
Yeah, very right.
I'm not valued. No one's got time for me. No one cares. And I think that's a really key takeaway from this conversation, isn't it? Put your gadgets down. Talk. Don't just text. Engage. Learn how to get that back to the 80s where you would go and have a conversation, you know, and you would go out and do stuff. What else are we talking about, Lee? Because we've been talking for ages, and these ladies have got to go.
We are just...
This lady, and...
well, there we go. So, closing thoughts. So, John, any closing thoughts to wrap up?
be kind to yourself. Whatever happens to your friends, family, loved ones, or even if you're in that situation, be kind to yourself. It's a momentary thing, and it will get better. Is my closing
And
thought.
self-care is really, really important.
Self-care is
Yeah,
really
self-care.
But be kind to yourself, but be kind to those that are around you as well,
Yeah.
and not just the people that you're close to. If you
Just
want to see,
basically, don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
don't be a dick.
So maybe we should change podcasts.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Don't
Side
be a
note,
dick.
don't
Give
be
me
a
8
dick.
minutes of your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Done.
It's a difficult world. We are in the age of social media. We are in the age of Instagram. Instagram models, young girls looking at that.
All tweaked with
Photoshop.
all
Yeah.
tweaked with AI. You got Andrew Tate and Elon Musk's unrealistic expectation for the boys. Comparison is the thief of joy. When we look at people with the perfect life that are brushed within a billionth of the life with AI,
I've got to say
of
though,
course.
I always think that if you've got to portray so much of the good stuff, you're probably pretty unhappy. It's like when you see somebody that spends all their time putting online, I'm so in love with my partner, he's the most
Just about to
amazing
say
person.
they're the
Actually,
worst relationships. 'Cause
Really?
They're just, this
You
is what we're doing. Look at us.
Yeah, but that's people masking themselves, isn't it, and trying to cope with
So
their own stuff anyway.
judge yourself
don't
by
be that.
these.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Sorry to
definitely.
interrupt. Well, not sorry
No,
actually.
you're not
Carry on.
sorry, John.
No, it's a good point.
The first
goes to
one is
show-
made all night.
Which goes to show even a
take
broken clock is read twice a day. And John, you are our broken clock.
No shit.
Clock is what I said.
Yeah.
Just some
I
support.
think the other one's
probably
probably
is
more
broken.
appropriate.
I'm not going to get into that.
You are a broken cock, John. Thanks, mate.
I mean, that phone case, it deserves to be broken. He's like 102.
Oh, is it
though.
really bad?
It's a flip phone case, yeah.
Oh.
What you got a flip phone case for?
I'll tell you why, right? I'll tell you why, right? Because I climb mountains, mate. If you ever dropped a mountain, so I dropped my phone down a mountain in Kilimanjaro, dropped his phone down, and it went down about 300 metres. Fucking left it there.
We always went the whole podcast without you mentioning mountains.
Oh, God, I know.
Almost failed
Almost.
right at the end.
Almost.
Maybe we
Does he
can
like
edit that
mountains?
out.
Does he?
God,
Shall I
no,
get on
don't
it?
start.
Oh, no, I like it.
Don't start. I need to go home.
I want to hear all about
You
your
can when I've
mountains.
gone home.
Text me.
Text me.
Do you know what? I ain't got enough time in my day because you just keep texting back and I'm like, God, it's there again.
She was trying to be nice then.
No, that's
Being
kind
nice,
of
that's
kind
nice.
of
Yeah,
That's
see,
the
be
response you get.
kind.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah, don't be a
Yes.
dick.
We've got a few resources, so Pappy Wish UK.
So what is? Because I've not heard of that one. Crack on. What is that then?
So this is support for young people who struggle with suicidal thoughts. So you can either call 0800 068 4141.
They're a great resource. Sorry to jump in, but I had a friend who died by suicide a few years ago, and she was early 20s, and her mum set up Abigail's Army. So there's a group of us that kind of get together and raise funds for to support young people and kind of suicide prevention and stuff. And Paprish UK was one of the ones we raised money for. They're absolutely fantastic. Yeah, just kind of really vouch
Good
for
to
them.
know. Good to know. And I think
And
that's
you can also text them as well on 07860 039967.
I really like that because that really is tapping into young people,
I
isn't
was
it?
just about to say
And
I
how they
love that.
communicate. Yeah,
Because you
absolutely.
don't want to speak. You don't want to say, I'm feeling crap, I need help. Sometimes it's just really nice to be able to say, I need help in a text. It doesn't feel as bad, does it?
No. I just hope, and I'm hoping it isn't a chatbot that texts you back.
Oh, that really annoys me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hope there's somebody on the, and there probably
Yeah.
is, who's on the end of the phone and says,
I'm sure
actually,
it
we
is.
have this message and we will deal with it appropriately.
And we've got Calm, which is campaign against living miserably. And you can call them on 0800 58 58 58. And Suicide and Co. Support for those bereaved by suicide, for those people left behind, and that is www.suicideandco.org. And Shout is a 24/7 tech support service for anyone in crisis. All you have to do is text Shout to 85258, and hopefully John will do his job and put the links.
I might do,
When
like I
we
said,
post this.
depends on looking bothered, but I might do. No, in all seriousness, I think there's some great resources, some great signposting. And ladies, in all seriousness, it's been absolutely incredible to start this new Sideline podcast with you.
I think you've done a grand job, and I've had so much fun tonight. I didn't realise you could have such serious subjects and actually make it fun, and I think that's what's going to have people engaged here, isn't it? We can have a bit of a laugh about it and also touch on the seriousness. So thank you for coming.
No, thank
Don't
you
come
for
back.
No intention of it. I'm blocking you.
Yeah, blocked. And yeah, so I guess, do you want to finish?
Yes. So just thank everyone for tuning in. If you've got any points, then feel free to put it in the comments when it's all released. But this has been Mind Matters, a spin-off of the Who Cares podcast. Cheers, bye.
Bye.